Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, March 22nd. We're starting late. I would try to make the argument here that I'm actually just an hour late, not 2 at 5 p.m. Central Time because of daylight savings time, but I don't think that that's specifically going to fly for most people. I don't think the new expansion's coming out until Tuesday. I think it's pretty obvious that's the point when we can, at the very least, look at the cards, and then maybe it'll take till Thursday. And doing Challenge a Friend, if somebody comes on and wants to be challenged, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll just use my secondary account off screen. So that just kind of leaves us with mage class cards, and we could do a tavern brawl, but there's no reason to, so that just leaves us with a lot of news, and I guess we'll play ranked. Like, I don't know if this new custom mage is a smart move at ranked 14, but we'll try it. We might as well just play ranked wherever I land. I don't want to get too precious. I mean, it has been awesome that I've made it up to rank 13 reward, but I also don't want to get so precious here that I'm only playing my best deck of my best hero class to try and get up super high. Like, 13 is still way higher than I've ever been, so let's just leave it at that. Does this only have odd cards? Yes, it does. So let's trade that. So I finished Magnetic Cage Closed, and boy, is that just a very poorly play-tested, bad, just like a really bad Portal clone. Like, theoretically it has 9 endings, but I looked at all the endings and they're not worth doing, particularly since they've made it so that you have to play the game from the beginning of the game every time to get an ending, which would just have you wasting a ridiculous amount of time through a lot of bad puzzles. They move the puzzles around to make it seem like there's actual content that you'll miss. I think there actually isn't too much of that you miss. I think it's actually a lot less than you would see. There's like one chamber called the correction chamber that I think I missed because I answered a answer correctly, and then there's one moral choice that was on a branching path in the middle that I didn't see, and the outcomes of the 2 moral choices in the game, or maybe 3 of them, don't seem like they change anything at all, so it's all just kind of BS. Okay.
Welcome to their show.
And that. And that. There we go. So yeah, it was awful. I nearly rage quit playing Magnetic Cage Closed. I was like in one of the very last puzzles, and it had just been so poorly play tested that I could not do something that was relatively simple, and because of that, I'm like banging my head against the wall, just driving myself crazy, and I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna rage quit at the last yard. That would have probably been the first time I've ever rage quit a game when I was really close to the end, but the ending's not worth it either. I think there's possibly something that could have been done with a magnetic gun, certainly. I mean, magnetic guns existed before portal guns did in the Half-Life universe, so that's not a big issue. But there's certainly things I would have done if I'm just working around that concept. In Magnetic Cage Closed, you have 3 levels of strength that really don't change much, whereas I would have a trigger or a button that caused something to become magnetized versus just being magnetically attracted. I'd have something that would let's see, what do we want to do here? I'm just gonna play all this. One copy into your deck. Interesting.
Job's done.
I would have had magnetic spheres, like that desk toy where the pinballs bounce back and forth. That's not particular. That doesn't have anything really to do with magnetism, but I would have something like that in the game. I would probably even try to get away from just being magnetic focused. I would, at a certain point, definitely want to teach the player how to make a motor using magnets. So you might have like 4 cubes in a specific pattern locked into like a cutout in the floor, and then you would set them correctly so that a sphere or a column or a pole in the middle would spin. That would be very useful in magnetics. I would take the idea of a magnetic relay and try to translate that into the game, and there's just kind of nothing like that. So it's a weird position to be in for a game. But as far as Magnetic Cage goes, there's basically nothing you could save. Like, the general idea that that's a warden and a psychologist, maybe. You could certainly write a story with that. The general idea that there's a prisoner who's a female who's allegedly a murderer. There's really no evidence to say she isn't, but there's really no evidence to say she is either. You could do something with that. Although that was a bad mistake too, because it didn't feel very good playing as the character when you're being directly told that the character you're controlling is a bad girl, bad guy. I would have in Portal, you don't have any real accusation that is put against the character Chell until late into the first game by GLaDOS, and by that point you pretty much know GLaDOS is lying and bad herself. They did it in a way so it was very blatantly obvious that GLaDOS was lying to just try to emotionally manipulate you. So yeah, it's kind of hard to say anything more about it because it's just such a mixed game. Yeah, I really 5 out of 10, not really worth your time. I had hoped for it to have been better, particularly as a counterpoint to QUB, but now that I'm done with it, I'm going to start playing QUB 2, which from what I remember was kind of more highly regarded. Let's see. Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna survive this next turn, so I'm just playing cards. Let's go through the news because this could be a very short stream, and that's a good idea on a Friday. Gamer Sutra has an article report. Walmart is looking into looking to enter the game streaming business. No duh. Walmart has been kind of thinking about that for a long time, because Walmart in general isn't really a competitor against other video game stores, but a lot of video game sales kind of do happen through super centers and grocery store type super centers, and their electronics department, which is a big part of what Walmart is definitely a direct competitor to video game stores like GameStop. So in the same way GameStop would be ruined completely by the it would be ruined completely by something like Google Stadia or any other video game streaming service where there's no physical things to sell, physical discs to sell. That would be a problem for Walmart. Walmart in particular, because this is more of an opinion than a provable fact, but it really to me feels like Walmart intentionally makes it so that there is a toy section, there's a video game section, there are sections like that, very consistently in the face of kids. This is why I suspect in part you often in a Walmart, if you haven't had the displeasure of being in a Walmart in the United States, it's why you often in a Walmart will hear a child whining, crying, begging for toys. It's because, unlike a Toys R Us, if a parent has no intention or has no money, more often than not, to buy toys, then the parent won't go to a toy store. It's just that simple. But if a parent has to go and get diapers and foods, it's very easy for you to accidentally walk by the toy section, which is very prominently out there in most store layouts, and
Time runs out on me.
And walk by the electronics section. And Walmart tends to cater to a poorer class also, so there is slightly more people who are just not not really in the financial straits to be doing shopping anyways for that kind of stuff. So if Walmart lost the video game section and their electronics section lost those 2 or 3 aisles, that's big money maker for them. They're already in a lot of ways getting close to running out of DVD and Blu-ray sales, because that has stopped being a real collectible thing as time goes forward. So they could lose potentially half of their electronic section. Secret could be played. Is that what I want to do? Or no? I want to do this and just hope this hits this 3 times. Well, not 3, but 2 is good enough. Of course, I could have played this. Oh, I guess I can play this next turn. Actually, this will be interesting. The thing here to take from this is Walmart, if it were to make a streaming service, probably wouldn't succeed too well. Like, I would definitely more prefer to be doing Google Stadia than some Walmart thing, just because of how cheap it would feel to be doing the Walmart thing. Okay. Let's go ahead and kill that guy. Seriously? Oh, this sucks. I'm not playing well. There was a way this could have been played really well, but I didn't do that. Moving on, Gematsu has an article here. AI, the Somnium Files launches July 25th. Interview with the director and designer, and here, this looks like this is a JRPG, if I was to guess, for the PS4, Switch, and PC. Let's see if we can get an indication of what it is. A lot of screenshots here I did not look at before I did the web peek. I'll look at the trailer. Actually, they're mentioning the Zero Escape series, so this is potentially a spiritual successor to the Zero Escape series, which would be locked escape rooms, basically the movie Saw. Yeah, and I'm looking at the trailer and I'm seeing an anime girl tied to a table about to be sawed in half, it looks like. So this is a, like the movie Saw. You're trapped in rooms, and I think yeah, I'm not really getting a visual novel vibe of this because of there's dialogue happening without text on the screen, and even if it was fully voiced in Japanese and English, you still would have the text on the screen if it was a visual novel. So yeah, this does look like a weirdo anime murder mystery type game. I'm a little surprised I haven't heard anything else about this, though. But I mean, I guess there's been just so much news happening, and it's Zero Z, so that's the highest rating. Double reactor core online.
Job done.
I need to quit playing ranked. Clearly the mage can't win. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Warducks raises $3.8 million to expand studio and create location-based AR games. Warducks is an Irish outfit, according to this article. It says, the article in the next paragraph says, in a notable move, the studio has brought in Doom co-creator John Romero to help shape its mystery project. So we'll just play casual here. One of the problems with bringing in a famous name like John Romero without really seeing what he's done recently, you're really just buying a name. You're not really buying skill, unless you actually think they have some possible management skill. Because like Doom creator, I assume this is the original Doom and not the reboot. I mean, he's really just made Doom, as far as I know. I don't think he went on to do anything else.
None will
Yeah, it says they're keeping him as a creative consultant. The article also says they hired Doug Kaufman of Civilization 2 fame as its lead designer, and has appointed the Elder Scrolls Online writer Lawrence Schick as a new narrative lead. So it seems like this Irish company is a conglomeration of some big names, but I'm not sure if that really translates into a legitimate belief that there will be some new major IP coming out that is going to be amazing. Right, so do I want to hit this with 2, I guess, and hit that with that. Moving on, Gamma Sutra report Microsoft's diskless Xbox One S gets a name and a launch date. This seems to just be a report up to repeating what we already knew, or we had already heard, that it was going to be called the Xbox One S All Digital Edition, which would be XOSADE for an initialism. And so it's an Xbox One Sadie, as in Sadie Hawkins dance, as in female, because it's diskless. I bet somebody thought that was funny. Or maybe I just figured that out and nobody else even thought of that.
What to do? What to do?
In the end, let's see. This article says it's going to apparently come with a 1 terabyte hard drive, which is still kind of small but big for consoles where the hard drives are always expensive and slow and small. And it will be bundled with popular games like Sea of Thieves, Minecraft, and Forza Horizon 3. All 3 of those games, I believe, are owned by Microsoft directly. I don't honestly see why you would want this device, though. And it seems to me like that would be a bad choice for the money, because it's coming in at $299, according to this rumor. And there's supposed to be that disc to digital program where you swap out your discs for digital codes. Why not just buy a regular Xbox One with a disc, or a used Xbox One with a disc option? It will save you money in the long run, absolutely. Maybe this is an argument that compared to the Xbox 360 there are just less games on discs in stores like GameStop. That's very possibly true, and that there have been possibly just less options in general as far as games to buy for this generation. But I still don't think that that's the way to go. When I think about how I was playing the Xbox 360 and I was going to the game store and getting used discs for like $5, $10, they weren't the best games ever, certainly, but they weren't terrible either. I would not want to lose that option. Okay, I'm gonna hit this, and then I'm gonna hit this. Okay. Do that. GameIndustry.biz has an article. It says Epic Game Store is making the industry better, but gamers don't see that. CEO Tim Sweeney addresses backlash against exclusivity deals, promises human curation to block shock controversy games. It's quotes shock controversy games like Great Bay. They also, in this interview that's not part of this main thing, and see, this really is just, I mean, I don't even know if you call this an opinion piece as much as this is a straight up propaganda piece, where they've let the interviewer, if there is even actually an interviewer here, and this isn't just a statement directly being said. I think this was actually a speech being given, and they're just quote mining and reporting on the speech. But they also said that they weren't going to allow any pornography games or porn games, which then opens the question to, like, if you're starting from that point and knowing all the pro-censorship people that exist in the video game journalism and just video game development world, does that mean the Epic Game Store is not going to have any mature games with any sexual situations whatsoever, any adult games, any lewd games at all? I think the answer is probably true, and they'll probably be fine if there's one scene in a big AAA game, but they'll probably be stricter if you're a small indie developer. But this inherently, to me, tells me that they will never have, they have no intention of having a collection of games that is a reasonable amount of games for sale on the Epic Store ever. That they always intend to have a very curated experience, and that it will always be a little bit lesser. And that's kind of what I've heard too, is that the person in charge of the Epic Game Store is really coming at from the approach that we don't really have any intention to become even as good as Steam is as far as a storefront, and Steam is not particularly that good as a storefront even. So it's always going to be a bad experience. It's always going to be curated. It's always going to have very few games. It will have exclusives for their 1 year, but that doesn't mean anything. There's a story later on saying that the next free game you get is The Witness. That's slightly interesting that you would get The Witness for free on the Epic Game Store, because The Witness is a puzzle game that never really lowered its price too much. Like, I always felt like The Witness would have sold a lot better now that it's been out for a year or more, to get down to starting at like $5, and overproducing for what it actually gives you. The problem with The Witness is it, on first look, doesn't look like anything but a standard puzzle game, and it's really hard to sell people on that and say, no, actually this game is really long and has lots of puzzles, and you really are going to want to play it for 30-40 hours, versus what seems like it might just be a 5-hour experience. Maybe 30 is a little excessive. Maybe it's closer to 15. So it seems odd that instead of going cheaper on Steam and trying to get more sales that way, it feels like The Witness has just decided to go straight free on the Epic Game Store and get money that way. Inherently, I'm using the phrase inherently too often today. I think what the devil's bargain with Epic's Game Store is, someone is backing up a truckload of cash to your doorstep, and it's really, really hard to have a long-term perspective and say, oh, actually, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't take this cash because there's a way to work a little bit harder and get more cash later. This is kind of like the example of for people who win the lottery, they can either get a one-time lump sum and get significantly less money, or they can get payments of like $1,000 a week for the rest of their life. You would be way better in so many different ways to take the payments, because you don't have to pay as much taxes on it. You get more money in the long run. You can avoid a lot of fights where people are asking you, hey, give me $1,000 here, $100,000 there. You just be like, I don't have it. I just get these paychecks once a week. That won't completely avoid that issue, but it will certainly help with that issue. Which that is the number one issue, is as soon as you win the lottery, you're surrounded by friends and family that want to take advantage of you. So it is fair, though, to say that some level of flag system and curation should probably happen on Steam to stop people from just putting things directly on their storefront without somebody looking at it. Arguably, the same is true for Steam. I mean, YouTube. Yeah, arguably, I don't know how YouTube could do it, but there should be some keyword flags. There should be some things that pop up red flags before a video is available. It should push a lot of people to upload videos a lot earlier so that they can be processed, and that's basically what happens. It's just the processing system doesn't catch a lot of things. And very possibly they should limit live streaming. There's definitely still a lot of people who are making live streams that should not be allowed to make live streams. Alright, let's play this, and then play this, and then do this. There you go. Somebody made an interesting argument, I believe on Reddit, a Reddit post, where they were talking about how the boycott until the game is no longer exclusive and then buying it on Steam actually doesn't send the right message. That, in all honesty, if you're gonna boycott a game because it's a Epic Store exclusive, you've gotta pretty much boycott it forever, for the rest of life. So Metro Exodus, just never buy it ever, never play it. Some people are even arguing pirate it, although I don't know what that happens. The developer of Metro Exodus made a kind of facetious argument saying that Metro Exodus sold a lot better than Metro Last Light. That's kind of not a fair comparison at all, because Metro Last Light was in no way as hyped or as promoted as Metro Exodus was, and the world of the video game PC gaming world was very different when Last Light came out. But we will certainly see that in the Epic Store too, is that they will do everything in their power to manipulate things and make it seem like the exclusivity worked perfectly and there was no controversy or anything around that at all. Even though we know that's blatantly untrue. Let's see. Alright, we have a game on Steam here called Borderlight. I'm not sure if I can actually boycott a game forever, but there's a good chance I could. This looks like a 2D Minecraft clone. I have to, I suppose, applaud it for being both low effort and copying Minecraft even worse than most Minecraft clones. 89 cents discounted. Of course, I'm not going to put this game on the follow list. But yeah, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. It really just kind of boils down to how many games I have otherwise. I think, particularly for me, I'll just the only way I could avoid buying exclusives if they come to Steam after a year of exclusives on Epics is simply by making sure I do a lot of research and know for a fact that they were exclusives. Okay. This is that glitch where we're gonna have to escape. So yeah, there's a good chance that I'll just accidentally buy the games and cover them, because I play and cover a lot of old games and a year later. Arguments also could be made that if you're outside of those first 6 months, 6 weeks of launch window of a game, people in the past have not really cared about the amount of sales you made at that point. That may no longer be the case though, so that may simply changed with these Epic exclusivity deals. I'm trying to look at this game that's tagged with sexual content and nudity. I think we can show it off. I think it's YouTube friendly. We have this game on Steam called Nayasha Winter. It's just a tile sliding game. Like, that's all it is. I really wouldn't even call this anime character animation style. Like, I'd call this slightly inspired by anime Western animation. This is 59 cents discounted. Again, these are not worth buying. Never gonna be worth buying. If you were gonna make a slide puzzle game with nudity in it and make it worth its while, you would have to really push a fact that you've got like 1,000 pictures in it, that you'll never see the the same picture twice. That would be about the only thing I can imagine happening to make that make sense. And frankly, you would need to probably have more than just slide puzzles. Anyways, you need half slide puzzles, half jigsaw puzzles, half other kinds of puzzles. Like, what I would do to expand a concept like that is I'd have at least 4 different waifu style anime girls, and one would be all about slide puzzles and they would take you through 50 slide puzzles, and one would be about jigsaw puzzles and take you through jigsaw puzzles, and it would just continue down that path with several other kinds of games, at least 4 different styles of games. Like, you could throw in math puzzles easily, you could throw in match puzzles, like, you could do Mahjong Solitaire. You really should probably balance it out significantly amongst several different mini games that exist to make it a collection of gameplay. And then at that point, after putting all that effort into it, you'd have a game that was probably worth $3 or $4, and at that point you probably wouldn't get enough sales to pay back your effort. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here that's a bunch of Asian characters. It says Falseman Demon Rebirth. I believe this is probably a Chinese game. And I like kind of the art style, but it looks to me like it's a very basic... I don't know if this is like a tabletop Dungeons and Dragons clone dungeon crawler. I guess it is.
I hope you like my invention.
Actually doesn't look too bad. Unfortunately, English language won't be supported. That's what I figured. $2 discounted. Yep. What is this? I want to share with you an attempt to trust. English, not the first language, obviously. Right, so we have one counter spell. Can we do it? If we did this,
I'll never tell.
this,
I'll never tell.
this,
We
this,
have many secrets.
and then this, and then kill that. Hopefully I've done enough to keep these two alive, and hopefully I can get another secret. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Devil May Cry 5 shipped 2 million units in 2 weeks. Capcom's hot streak continues with another commercial success. So yeah, Capcom set themselves up nicely to release several games very close together that have been successful. Arguably, this is probably a mistake on their part, because you could have had this spread out over the course of a year. You could have had Devil May Cry later towards the end of the year and Resident Evil 2 earlier at the beginning of the year. Let's do this first. Okay, that saves that.
Welcome
That
to this show.
does that. And then we'll just play this. I could lose here. Certainly could have lost. Alright, so that's all we needed to do. Let's see if we can challenge Tragic Master for a challenge a friend. Tragic will probably accept. While he's thinking about it, we've got a game on Steam called Gyro Boss DX. This looks like a asteroids bullet hell shooter style game. Seems like you're playing as the bad guy in the middle of the screen, and then there are things around you trying to attack you. That looks like that might be slightly interesting, but these are still the style of games I don't like to play. This is $3.99 discounted. Let's see what this developer has made otherwise. Let's see, we have a mixed reviewed game here. French game. Some other games. None of these look like they've ever been significant enough to get a review. And let's see, it doesn't seem like they've been releasing games that long, a couple years, but also doesn't seem like they're just flooding Steam. Yeah, I think this one's easy enough to skip. Yeah. The idea is cool, and there's this game that I'm watching some other people play called Fury, F-U-R-I, that has a lot of these bullet hell pattern style things in it, and I want to play that game even though I know it's pretty hard to play. Well, what happened? The Tragic Master just... is he really building a deck and he's just so enthralled with that, or has he stepped away from his connection? Next we have a game on Steam called Sophont, S-O-P-H-O-N-T, Sophont. Let's see. There's something here. Like, this doesn't just look like a immediate asset flip for a first-person shooter with special abilities. This is an early access game for $2.99. That seems a little too cheap. And the last one this developer made was negative. But it got enough reviews to get to be negative. I'm willing to put this on the fall list. Almost certainly this won't turn into something that is worth playing. It's single player only. I think there probably is a connection of, or a collection of games on Steam that are like this, where somebody has half of an idea of making a first-person shooter, but they don't have the budget to make enough levels and put any level design in it, or enough, or any real story, because they don't have the budget to hire a real writer. And so then you end up with what is a vertical slice or demo of a first-person shooter game that works pretty well and has some cool ideas, but in its totality is really just an extremely short experience. But I'll let people who review the game tell me if they like it, and it has to come out of early access before I'd play it anyways. Let's look at one more thing, and if Tragic Master hasn't responded, we'll just move over to the European account. Alright, well, this next game we have on Steam is called Bikini Surfer Girl Wild Wahine. This looks like this is a mobile game, and I don't really get why you call her Bikini Surfer Girl. I mean, that seems kind of super fluorous for no reason. Why not just call her Surfer Girl? There is definitely reasons why you would not, as a professional surfer, wear a two-piece bikini unless you're doing some competition where they want you to wear a two-piece bikini to get more viewership. Most people that I'm pretty sure that surf use wetsuits of either gender, just because when you're surfing you might wipe out, your clothes might get torn off of you, they might get in the way, they might cause drag, you might end up with a kind of road rash by running against the board or the rocks or the waves. I'm not even sure. Yeah, this looks like it's a kind of low effort infinite runner trick game. Early access for $4.24. That's incredibly expensive for what this is. This is in no way worth $4. If this was a 69-cent game, maybe, but it looks pretty terrible too. And I would say, if I was going to make a game with a surfer in it, I don't think I, in my head, could make a surfing game. Because I feel like maybe you could make a VR experience with that, and it would be interesting for like 30 minutes or so. But I don't think a lot of physical activities are fun when you're actually doing it, but they're not fun when you simulate it. And I think surfing would definitely fall into that category. So if I was given the mandate to write a story of a surfer girl, I would write a surfer girl and not do anything with that at all. I would potentially get her back on land, get away from any water levels, because water levels always suck. Guess we're gonna play Hunter today. Like, I can't really re-roll this, so we're on the European account now. Might as well play ranked on this. I could probably put a mini game of surfing in between transitions of other
Rexa versus Thrall.
like transitions of other
Doomhammer. Let the hunt begin.
what am I trying to say? Other areas you could have a little surfing minigame, but for it to be the main thing, you're then asking something like a Echo the Dolphin style game, and I don't know how you would do that. Yeah, and make that fun. Even things like Subnautica, those games are done by either swimming in the water or being in a submarine in the water. They're not swimming on top of the water.
Truth is found in death.
This is probably a non-story we have on Gematsu, but we have an article here. Date Live Rin Dystopia details the library, animation, and map systems. So plus pre-order and limited edition information. So they're just hyping up this game that's coming out. Let's see.
Quickly.
Just do this. Let's see if there's an actual date that's already been mentioned for this game. Yeah, Data Alive Rin Dystopia is due out for the PS4 this summer in Japan. May not come over to the West. Okay. This. And then this. And then this. And then this. And that. And hopefully that is enough. Next we have a game on Steam called Final Sim, which looks like it's just a horror game. Doesn't look great nor terrible, unfortunately. That's the problem with all horror games. It's 99 cents though, so I imagine it's not really worth any attention. And most of this trailer is just dark things.
I wonder.
Yeah. Oh, he silenced me. Darn it. Yeah, I don't think that game needs to be on the follow list. Gematsu has an article, Nippon Ichi Software, new title countdown website launched, 6 days remaining. So, in 6 days we will get an announcement, which will probably be extremely bare bones, of some new game, potentially a new game that we've never even heard of before. Or from a new series we've never heard of before. So that's a teaser on the tease and not really useful information. Gematsu has an article, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been announced for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, due out in Q1 2020. So the thing there is, I think I own all the Vampire the Masquerade games, which these video games are based on in real life role-playing things, I believe. And the previous games in the version in Vampire the Masquerade are just so incredibly old. They're kind of sort of beloved, but also really, really old. So I'm gonna look at this trailer. The new game is basically gonna have to be a soft reboot. I don't see any other way around it, because you're gonna have to bring in both new fans and all the niche fans who haven't played a Vampire Masquerade game in potentially 15 years or more, and that's gonna be that's basically just making a whole new series. I'm looking at the trailer. The graphics do look good. Seems a lot like you're playing as a first-person vampire, and you have some extra powers, and then there's some parkour and running in this as you're chasing down people too, it seems. Like, I don't think you're gonna have a BioShock style of ridiculous amounts of powers, but I think you will have a few bits of powers. Yeah, the graphics look really good on this, which you kind of needed that to do. I suppose it was too much to ask to think that the Vampire the Masquerade series could be rebooted, or all of the 3 or 4 games that have come out previously could be remastered. That's really, I think, what the audience of that the fans of that series would want. They'd want a remaster of the things they already loved more than anything else. It's actually going to use the NVIDIA GeForce GTX ray tracing stuff, and NVIDIA deep learning super sampling technology too, because I'm looking over the key features. So it's promising a lot, and arguably it's not even promising as much as it could be, because the graphics don't look that amazingly good. But it's certainly going to have to work really hard to make a game that a lot of people would be willing to actually play, because they need to expand out their audience quite a bit. You really can't just have it be the fans that were there 15 years ago. But a lot has changed in video gaming on PC too, so I think those fans might very well come, assuming it doesn't end up as some kind of Epic Store exclusive, and then that could be an example of a game that would really fail if it was a store exclusive. But it's almost impossible to define failure as an Epic Store exclusive, because you get money and you can just claim that, well, I wasn't going to get that money if I hadn't been an exclusive. The con basically works that way. Next we have Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice on Steam. Already rated very positively. That's good news. This is a AAA game, so it's $59.99. And you can buy it with the Steam controller for $15 more. But I imagine you would have to pay for shipping. That's the problem with the Steam controller. Every time it's been on sale, every time any of the Steam hardware has been on sale, it's cost more to ship it than it was worth. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice is a single-player ninja game, in case you're not aware, where you're fighting monsters. It doesn't seem like any of these screenshots want to load, but I think you might be fighting other people too besides monsters. This is in the spiritual successor of several other more Japanese specific games that a lot of which may have been poorly translated or not translated at all and not come to the West. So this is a great time to jump on to that style of gameplay. There was a game just a year or two ago that also was like this, that had some popularity, but it was a little bit too much like Dark Souls while not being as good as Dark Souls for it to be justifiable to play. So it would be kind of nice if every year there was like one very Japanese, feudal Japanese style game out there that oh, this sucks. I played poorly. Just like a game out there to let people try it. And because pretty much there is always one feudal Japanese game that gets made at least every couple of years. This is terrible. They figured me out immediately on this. So Sekiro shows Die Twice will of course be put on the wish list. I don't even need to put it on the follow list, although I do need to probably do a follow list cleanup. I guess there really isn't going to be a sale on Steam anytime soon, and that's when I should have done the follow list cleanup. It should have been for the Chinese New Year sale. And since I've missed that, it makes sense just to move forward and do it now when I have some free time. I should hit that actually. Next we have a game on Steam called Eldritch Academy. This is not good animation, and it's got black bars on the side as a visual novel. Yeah, look at this. This looks horrible. They want $10.79 for this game. Like, the only thing I could think is maybe this visual novel developer has some other game they've made that would have been really good, and that's not true either. So you have here a ugly looking, not widescreen visual novel that does not have full audio for way more money than it deserves. Yeah, this is one to definitely pass over. Let's do this.
I hunt alone.
Hit this. And that. Next we have an article from Gamatsu. Azure Lane Crosswave launches August 29th in Japan. This is looks like this is Neptunia, the character from Neptunia. So Neptunia included as a pre-order bonus. And then these are new characters. See, it's coming out for the PS4 in Japan. This might get like, it might come to the West, but I am not really sure if it would or not. I'm not even really sure what kind of game it is. It says it's an RPG, but clearly they don't care enough to even show the RPG elements. They're just showing me anime girls. So that's the focus there, and no big surprise to that. Let's just hit this. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Cold Cable Life Shift, which looks like it's possibly a troll game or just a really ugly game, looking at this thumbnail. Yeah, this is like an asset flip, low effort game. Yeah, it's just not good. And even the descriptor of low effort, I keep going in circles on what to really call these games, but yeah, this is 99 cents. I'm not going to put on a follow list. But yeah, I go in circles because maybe somebody did put a lot of effort in it and they're just incompetent. But I suppose when I say low effort, I'm comparing it to the average amount of appearance of effort in other games, not the actual amount of effort that was spent on it, because I have no idea about that. I could say very low quality, but then that's a pretty big judgment, because it might not be low quality, it may just look low quality. In the end, I suppose that all means the same thing. It either appears to be low effort or it appears to be low quality. So I guess since I've just already locked it into my head to use that phrase, that's where I want to go with it. There really is no good descriptor. Alright, so that's Hunter class cards done. Now we need to do spells, so let's just do the Mage and hope there's more spells in Mage. Next we have a game on Steam that's a bunch of Asian characters in origin, and looks like it's a RPG. I would suspect it is a Chinese RPG because there's a lot of random, different, weird 3D characters here that don't seem to be consistent in an artistic style. And see, I don't know, this might be a good game, it might be a bad game, but it's English is not supported. $14.99, and it's Japanese, so I was wrong. It's actually a Japanese random looking game. I would have said this was Chinese. Well, I did say this was Chinese. Well, proves that it's hard to tell the difference a lot of times. Next we have a game on Steam called VR Healthcare Shoulder Joint Exercises, Apple Grove Picking Games. I assume what this is a VR game where you're using the controllers to actually put your shoulder in a specific position to do shoulder joint exercises. This is incredibly a bad idea. Like, I get what they're trying to do here, but it's not a smart move, because when doing exercise, you kind of need to have somebody watch you and make sure you're doing the form properly until you can learn how to do the form properly. Otherwise, you're going to do the wrong thing and hurt yourself, potentially. And so you don't ever want to introduce the opportunity to hurt yourself. And so if you need to do shoulder joint exercises in particular, you've probably already hurt yourself pretty badly. Otherwise, people wouldn't even be considering doing that. And the last thing you need is to try and use something that would make it worse. My shoulder, personally, starts hurting after several hours of streaming because I don't have a armrest for my elbows to rest upon. I don't really have a desk. I don't have the mouse and keypad at the right height for me. So there's a lot of things that come about from that. Let's see if I do this. No, I want to do this, but if I do that, I can't really kill the guy, so I need to do this. And I'm just going to leave everything else in the hand. Interesting. So, doing exercises in VR, this game, by the way, is $6.99, or this program. Terrible. You're not able to see yourself and your own shoulders. The VR in no way is capable of accurately and correctly spotting you and seeing what you're doing. So, like, that's not a smart move either.
What to do?
I guess we'll just have to do this. That was good enough to get to that point. Then in the turn. So I would highly, highly recommend against any kind of exercise regimen in VR, because you can't see yourself, you can't spot yourself. Nobody else is going to be around to see you or spot you. There might be an argument for a camera looking at you if it was really well programmed to actually see what your actual physical body is doing, but even at that, I think you probably are never going to have anywhere near the level of experience that you would get from just a random gym spotter or somebody who knows what they're doing, or an occupational therapist, or some other physical therapist. So yeah, it's just electronic home remedy medicine is as much a bad idea as most other home remedy medicines in a lot of cases. There was the like Wii yoga stuff, and that balance board really wasn't bringing anything new to it. But yeah, even the Wii yoga is probably not the smartest of ideas.
The future is ours.
Okay. So if I do this, I'll draw a card. Moving on, Tech Raptor has an article, Life is Strange 2 Episode 3 release date announced along with other episodes. So it feels like Life is Strange 2 has slowly been released over the course of like 6 months or longer. Seems like it's rather slow. Let's see this.
Welcome to the show.
And then
Welcome
this.
to the show.
And then that should do 6 damage. Killed that. So Square Enix announced the third episode will be entitled Wastelands and will release May 9th on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. I think maybe Life is Strange 2 is a Epic Store exclusive. If not, it's just been a game I've been mostly ignoring. There is also an episode 4 and an episode 5, so you at least now know that there are 5 episodes. Episode 4 is supposed to be out August 22nd, and episode 5 is supposed to be out December 3rd. So that is a really long release date. I don't know why it's doing that way, other than very possibly that they're not seeing the level of sales that they would like to see on it, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly the case.
I am the blade of the goddess.
I'm always in a weird position with Life is Strange because I didn't really like the first game. I haven't done Before the Storm. I haven't done that free demo that led up to Life is Strange 2, so I think I've just fallen off of it, and I'm just going to be committed to stay away from playing any more of the Life is Strange series. Maybe I would jump back in if they brought back Max from the first series there. But even that would probably be a betrayal of how the ending happened. Somewhat. Moving on, Game Sutra has an article. Valve is pushing new social features for Steam later this year. So the announcement of these new upgraded features to make Steam more attractive to developers may be linked to competition of the Epic Store, the article says. I'm sure. So one thing I know that they're going to do is they're going to update the way the library looks, which hopefully doesn't screw up my library sorting system, but also the library page on the Steam app is pretty awful, so almost any change will be improved.
Hello.
And probably appreciated. Let's see. The first of the new features will be Steam Events. It shows players from a glance what's happening to the games in their Steam library, include event details, which event players can currently play, and a clear call to action.
What to do? Time runs out on me.
Players can also set reminders for upcoming events through the Steam client or mobile app, personal calendar apps, or text messages. Events are shown through Steam, and players who will see personalized rollout pages that will show game events, live broadcasts, community events, tournaments, and future events, etc. That events in general, for me, would be pretty useless. Like, almost no game that I play would entice me to play it through an event, and I imagine if it's just allowed to be a page that is flooded with events from developers or other users, it would just be this nightmare calendar that nobody ever looks at. The only event I could think that might interest me is if there were some kind of achievement on a game where I had all the other achievements and wanted to get 100% achievements, but you had to have a lot of people playing online, or you have to play multiplayer. Maybe that would make sense. Or maybe the pinball arcade, if they were going to do a tournament and maybe there was something really that you could win from that tournament, like a new game from Pinball Arcade or some Steam currency. If we could straight up get into, you could win Steam inventory gems or something like that, that might interest me. But outside of that, yeah, most games I imagine would try to give me events, and I would be interested. I'm already irritated by the amount of live broadcasts I see just by randomly looking at people's Steam pages. I have no interest in looking at that. Game updates? Like Binding of Isaac, when it gets a new update and there's 100 new items added to it, that's slightly exciting certainly, but I don't really have time to want to go and do that extra work.
Welcome to the show.
And play a game I've already played. Plague Inc. is another great example of that, where Plague Inc. is kind of rather consistently adding more content here and there, but I really don't have time to come back and play it. I'm really saying the same thing over and over again. Steam library pages will be redesigned, with the finalized version being pushed out around this summer. They explained that the product page in the library will be changed, putting it in the aforementioned events and activities. So there's some pictures here I guess we could show off here of what it looks like, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to describe it.
Look how it burns!
Let's see.
Easing up.
So here's the mock-up of what the library looks like, or is going to look like. So basically right now on the library, if you're not familiar with Steam's library, you just have this long list of games, and this is not really indicative of somebody who has a lot of games. And then when you would either have nothing here, or you would click on a game, or whatever last game you clicked on, you would have the entirety of the rest of it just talking about that one game. This now has more of a homepage feel to your library, where you're going to have recent games that you've played, which doesn't really help too much, but it would help a little bit for me. And then down below is your complete collection in this thumbnail format, which I probably would just change, because you can have your games in a thumbnail format right now on Steam, but it's not very useful. There apparently will be more filters, more sorting, which will be slightly useful, but using Depressurizer, the third-party app, I've already sorted a lot of my games, so if that sort gets messed up, then that will suck.
What to do? What to
Okay.
do?
Kill this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. But apparently they were going to work on more chat features and more social features, and that's been pushed later. TechRaptor has an article: Control and Journey to the Savage Planet are Epic Store exclusives. So yeah, a couple more games are going to be Epic Store exclusives. Control sucks that that's an exclusive, because there was some hype for that, and I believe it was probably announced as a game that was going to be on Steam, and so now it may still be on Steam, but not on day one launch, but a year later, and that kind of sucks. Journey to the Savage Planet, kind of in the same direction, although Journey to the Savage Planet had less hype around it, but another new IP that people were hyped to play on Steam and are now not going to be on Steam. So you're getting to a dangerous point where there might be 4, 5, 6 months, even a year of AAA games that are Epic Store exclusives, and that might hurt PC gaming in general more than it even hurts Steam.
They'll never know what this one's like.
But it might not matter at all. The thing about Control is that it looked cool, but it also didn't really look like it was much of a game for what was being shown. The actual gameplay was really just first-person shooting, and it seemed like that might be done in some small rooms and small corridors with nothing else too interesting to do, as far as what I've seen so far. And so we've yet to have a game come out that is amazing, that everybody really, really would want to play, that also is an exclusive. Unfortunately, that might be Borderlands 3. There is that chance that Borderlands 3 is the one and the first game that will turn out to be the nightmare scenario.
We have many secrets.
This one's
Yeah,
mine.
there's no way I'm gonna win here.
This one's mine.
Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Among the Sleep Enhanced Edition, coming to the Nintendo Switch May 29th. It's a first-person horror game. This was the one with the little boy and the teddy bear. Yeah. Actually, there's about 2 games on Steam, on PC, that are a little boy and a teddy bear. But yeah, it's one of them. It'll be interesting to see how well a horror game sells on Steam, on the Switch, because I would imagine that if there is one genre that would suffer on the Switch, it would be horror games. So we need to play a couple more mage games, unless there's potentially something else that has more spells than the mage deck. Next we have a game on Steam called Final Assault, which looks like a VR real-time strategy game. It looks kind of good. Yeah, looks like a militaristic real-time strategy game. I bet there aren't too many levels, if I was just to be cynical. Early access and requires VR, $20.09. I'll put this on the follow list and we'll see if a lot of people like it. Right now it's rated positively. Of course it will just stay on the follow list until some point I either decide that VR has completely died out, which will almost certainly never happen, or I decide that I'm absolutely never going to buy a VR headset. And that's a hard point to reach, because eventually, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, if I'm still running a YouTube channel 20 years down the line, eventually at some point I will run into a VR headset that is just so cheap. Like, if it is only $100 for a VR headset and it's doing 8K and can just scan your fingers and you don't need controllers and it is as realistic as real life, of course I'd be a fool not to buy a headset at that point. Particularly if all games require VR at that level. And that could happen in a generation, certainly. If both the Xbox, the next Xbox, the next PlayStation, and the next Nintendo console all required VR headsets, that would be the entire video game industry at that point requiring VR. I would have to bite the bullet and get one for PC too. I don't think that would ever really happen though. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Space Junkies, which I think is a VR game. It's mixed reviewed already though. It actually doesn't look terrible, but it probably doesn't play too well. It's an open beta and it's free and it's multiplayer, and that's going to be a problem. You're going to have a small audience of people trying to get online to fight each other. So it's a free game. I don't have to cover free games. Know it exists, and then it's out there. Let's see. Hit that, and then hit that, and that, and then that. Hit that. Next we have a game on Steam called Breakfest, which looks like it's probably a low effort. It looks like it's a platformer, but you can't see the ground in this video. Interesting. Yeah, To me, it looks like it's just a low-effort platformer with some shooting in it. I don't see anything here that really interests me. 10% off for $2.69. Yep, that's one I'm gonna skip.
What to do?
GameIndustry.biz has apparently decided to take a much more opinionated piece against Valve than what I thought they were doing before. Maybe I simply slid into what fall on GameIndustry.biz in a quiet period, and now I'm starting to get frustrated with this heavy we want Valve and we want Steam to be censored push. But they've got this article. Valve stays the course despite intensifying competition. Steam business update at GDC sees Valve open its networks to all developers for online play. So that title is heavy propaganda, yellow journalism. Like this article, the subtitle has nothing to do. It's saying something completely different. Actually, Valve is not staying the course if it's opening its networks for all developers to use online play at all. So, yeah, just fake yellow journalism. I almost said the fake news phrase, but yeah. I'm gonna take a moment to scroll through this article and try to see if there's actually any reported news. Here. I didn't even know Valve was at GDC. A lot of things happened at GDC, but not a lot that actually needed to be reported.
I wonder.
Let's see. Steam business update offered tweaks on discoverability fronts and more transparency on how Valve's revenue share has been spent. Valve's presentation showed off a few new features for developers and users alike, along with improvements and iterations made from the existing features. There's a quote here: "The network is truly built for gamers and game developers, and it's vastly better than the open network and open internet." I assume that's Steam's like encrypted backend connecting players to each other without allowing them to be hacked or DDoS'd. Yeah. Scrolling through what is a bunch of just opinionated yellow journalism, that this article really has nothing to say. That is a great example of an article that I would prefer to not read and instead have someone else report properly on the news. Just give me the facts, give me what is actually said, instead of giving me a load of bull. The argument that the pro-Steam censorship side tries to make is so disingenuous and ridiculous that if Steam tomorrow decided to change the way they did Steam, and they decided to kick off every game they thought was bad, that somehow that would make Steam this excellent curated shop and people would be buying way more games and people would be happier with Steam. It was like, no, not really. People would be super peeved if even 100 games were kicked off Steam. let alone the thousands of games that probably should be kicked off Steam if you were going to make a curated storefront.
For Dalaran.
Just play cards and then do this. Take the victories while we can. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Warcraft, which seems like it's craft your own tanks in a low effort tank simulated asset flip game. Like, this is even less than an asset flip game because you're being forced to craft your own vehicles. It's early access for $8.24. That's ridiculously expensive. So where are we here as far as this? I need to find something that has spells in it, first of all, because clearly the mage barely has any spells in it. Not really a lot of spells. Let's see, what if we were to type in the word spell and then start looking at that doesn't really work, does it? Yeah, I think the warrior probably has more spells than the mage does. Shaman doesn't. The rogue has more spells than the mage does. So I probably need to be playing the rogue so far. So we've been going an hour and 30 minutes here. I think I should break up the recordings. I've been kind of consistently failing to do that. I'm not going to magically finish all the news in the next 5 minutes or in the next game. Yeah, the priest has more than the rogue, I think, so I need to be playing the priest, it seems. Unless the druid has even more. Yeah, it does look like the druid has even more, so let's see. So I'm just gonna type in spells. Or something close to the word spells. And leave that there. So let's break up this recording here. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon down below, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.